Alright, hello. Mic check, mic check. Elgato microphone working. Switch sound. Well, there's not going to be any sound from the Switch this time around. Alright, greetings, ladies and gentlemen, to a retrospective of Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. At the time of this recording, it is June 13th, 2023. I have already since beaten the game about a week ago. And if you're watching this, it either means you don't fancy watching a full on playthrough of this game. Don't blame you. Spoiler alert, this series was 50 episodes long. So if you don't fancy watching a whole on 50 hours, or hours, well, actually it's more like 100 hours if they're about 2 hours apiece. If you're watching this, it either means you've already beaten the game and you just want to hear a retrospective, or you do not fancy watching 50 episodes of this show or this playthrough. Don't blame you. Then you've come to the right place. Now, that all being said, some of the things I might talk about here might be spoiler territory, so if you don't want to be spoiled on the series, or if you want to play the game for yourself and then come back to this, that's entirely your decision. So, to kick things off, I thought the game was fantastic, honestly. I mean, yes, it borrows heavily from Breath of the Wild, but I think it played pretty well. Um, so to answer the question that everybody had been debating about is is this game worth the $70 price tag? Now, I've done a bit of research because, well, I've owned Breath of the Wild for so long that I've actually when I bought Breath of the Wild, I bought it along with my Switch as part of a bundle, back when both the game and the Switch itself first came out. So, I already had the DLC for Breath of the Wild already purchased, so I never knew how much it was. Um, according to my findings, Breath of the Wild's DLC is about $20 for both packs. Not each, just for the expansion pass. So if you include the base game of Breath of the Wild, which is $60 plus 20, well, basic math, that's $80. So Breath of the Wild plus its DLC is actually more expensive than this game was. Um, Now, I know a lot of people might say, oh, but this game borrows too heavily from the first game, it shouldn't be worth $70. But you gotta remember, like, they added a whole bunch of new things. Like, take this cutscene take this picture of this cutscene right here. Programmers had to animate that, you know? They had, for the thing, combat wise, yes, a lot of things are similar. But there are things in there that they had to program, new bosses they had to make. So, there's a lot of new stuff here that it isn't just a carbon copy. Now, this isn't the first game on a Nintendo system that actually did something like this. Let's take the 3DS's. Let's take the Square Enix game Bravely Default and Bravely Second. Not to be confused with Bravely Default 2, which is on the Switch. Bravely Default and Bravely Second are Square Enix titles that were made for the 3DS, which takes place in a land called Luxendark, and yes, Bravely Second does borrow a lot graphically from Bravely Default. But I'm not going to. Well, I think you can buy those games actually physically on cartridge, so I won't spoil anything. If it was a DLC only thing and you can't play it anymore or much less download it, because at the time of this recording they shut the eShop down. But yeah, Bravely Default and Bravely Second are, I believe, still available physically. So you want to enjoy that story, be my guest. But yeah, I mean they. Oh, oops. Okay. Yeah, I'm what? Yeah, this picture's in the my Switch album here. Um, so Bravely Second takes place also in Luxembourg, and I mean it borrowed heavily from the first game. In the first game, there was like a mechanic where you're basically rebuilding a village of Narende, right? Well, in the second game, you're actually redeveloping destroyed cities on the moon. Yeah, again, you'd have to play the game to understand that, but basically a carbon copy through and through. Same enemies, maybe different things have changed. So, and yes, both of the games were about the same price. So, in my opinion, as long as the story is good and there's enough new things added in, then I don't think it really matters. Well, I mean, I don't think a $10 price difference matters. I mean, as long as you get enjoyment out of it and enjoy the universe, I mean, you know, by all means, I mean, it's kind of like when you buy a. It's kind of like when some people buy like a DVD of a movie they've already seen in theaters, you know, and just never get around to watching the DVD because, well, some of us have this, been there, done that mentality, like you've already played it once, you know how it is, you don't think to go back to it, like all the other games that we probably buy and don't use. I mean, the only difference here is that digitally they don't collect dust, right? A digital title will never collect dust, but it will still take up space. So that's kind of a reminder. Um, let's see, what else can we talk about? I mean, I really enjoyed the characters. I mean, I think the out of the sages, I think I got the most enjoyment out of the water temple personally. I mean, the boss, I mean, was more of a gimmick fight. What was its name? Muck Darok. But I mean, it was a fun time. But the thing is that like a lot of the temples in this game, especially the water temple, I mean, if you have the right Zonai parts or machine parts and such, you can just go to a lot of these places. And I'm kind of wondering to an extent, like, would it be possible to go to each temple, reach each temple, and not have the sage with you when you at least get there? I mean, if I were like, let's take the Lightning Temple, right? Let's say I never went to Gerudo Town and just made my way towards the pillars, right? Well, first of all, would the pillars be there? Would the pillars be there, or do I have to follow the story to make them appear? And second of all, if the pillars are going to still be there, if I were to just do the puzzle that made the temple raise out of the ground, would Riju just show up and just say, "Oh yeah, I saw what was happening," completely bypassing the whole thing about the Gibdos invading the city? Or, I mean, I would say that the only one that you couldn't really, that I don't think you can really skip is probably Unobo. You probably can't skip because, well, I mean, I don't, I don't imagine like, making your way to the top of the Death Mountain and him just showing up without a mask on. I mean unless they force you to fight Yonobo there instead of at his headquarters, when he was mind controlled or whatever. Uh, I gotta say, I still, and I've said this before during and I have said this like a couple of times before. The Dragonhead Islands in the sky, you know, cloaked in that thundercloud. I I mean, I never knew that there was a way to clear the storm. Well, or to make it more visible. I mean, I think it was like, oh, what was it? I think it was like episode 40 or the 40 episodes in or something. I don't know, but so anyway, I had Tulin and Riju already, and I had completed the Yiga clan side quest to infiltrate the headquarters and got the lightning helm. Basic, basically, it's the reworded. It's basically the same thing as the thunder helm. It's just a Yiga take on it. Frog in my throat, I guess. So anyway, I figured, with the lightning helm, I just said to myself, yeah, why don't I just fly into the thundercloud and see what I can find? And sure enough, I inadvertently find the fifth sage right there and then, you know? Like, it didn't say, oh, you're not supposed to be here yet, No, it basically just let me complete the Temple of Spirit, so I inadvertently got Minoru, like, much earlier than I was supposed to. Apparently, as the main quest was supposed to be, you're supposed to find the other four first, go to the castle, fight, and then be told of the fifth one. And that was supposed to redirect you to and that probably would have redirected me to Kakariko Village, which would have basically allowed us to, gain access to the final ring ruin. Holy cow! You'd think with everything I had already had learned at that point, I would have just told them like, hey, the Zelda that's walking around is probably fake. You got to let us investigate the ruins. But no, they didn't let us do that. In fact, even even when even when Link told them, "Hey, I already found the fifth sage," some time ago, they didn't. Pura didn't really redirect me to go back to Kakariko. She never. I don't think she ever said, "Well, I guess I'll get around to telling the folks back home to let us investigate the ruins," or someone should go tell them that the princess was a fake or something. Something that would have allowed me to go back to the Thunderhead Islands proper, right? Or Dragonhead Island. Which, by the way, I'm glad I actually revisited after I completed, that main quest line. After it was already a moot point, but still. Revisiting the Dragonhead Islands did net me 2 Sage's Wills, so. And with much better visibility. Holy cow. Speaking of areas with low visibility, the Typhlo Ruins in the first game, Breath of the Wild, was completely pitch black. But I'm kind of wondering, like, how much of the Typhlo Ruins, as it is in this game, was actually in the first game, right? This is something like Lost Bits would have to investigate. It's a channel. I think it's a channel by I think Tetrabit Gaming. So, they might be able to literally shed some light on the Typhlo ruins in Breath of the Wild and compare it to that of Tears of the Kingdom to see, if it's like if the whole thing was like a one for one recreation or just illuminated or if there were some changes. By the way, I'm surprised Minoru didn't really have a trial there at that ruins. It was only just the other four. But I don't know. I guess it is what it is. Speaking of which, I think one of the underwhelming parts was like toward the end of the Master Koga side quest, where you're basically investigating the underground. Which, by the way, I have to say, trying to find the fourth in final area underneath Rito Village. Like, there's no. I guess you would have had to have the forethought of talking to Joshua, which I think I actually did talk to Joshua about trying to find locations into the depths, but they just kept saying, "Oh, well, if you can't enter it through one, if you can't enter the depths through one, get to where you need to go, try finding another chasm." But the thing is, they never tell me or spell out where the chasm is. I literally had to go into Rito Village, chance, literally chance find what was his name, Paddock, who literally panned the camera and showed me, oh, the chasm's right here in a hole in the wall. I mean, I would never have figured that out. I mean, I'm sure as you have already seen or will see if you're watching this first for some reason, you know, I actually was on the outside perimeter in the depths surrounding Rito Village, and I came across that NPC or the disguised Yiga soldier, who basically said something alluding to the idea of like there's something behind this wall, or and they had a statue that was buried in the wall. So I figured, oh, am I supposed to so I figured, okay, well, maybe I'm supposed to phase through the rock or something. And I must have wasted hours or a couple episodes on it, but damn. Like, I mean, I think that could have been spelled out better, or maybe some indication should have told me, hey, maybe talk to Joshua, or maybe the soldier down at the bottom should have said something to the effect of, maybe if I try going back to the surface and stumbling around the village, maybe I'll find another entry point. I mean, that would have been a way better hint than, oh, I think there's something embedded in this rock. So, I mean, kind of a time waster, but I mean, I guess you don't want to solve a puzzle too quickly either. It's kind of a conundrum. An At what point does a puzzle become just more aggravating than it is satisfying to solve, right? It's like when you play, I don't know, Tetris, and like you keep telling yourself one more game, the right mix of challenging yet addictive, right? Um Also, I think it was kind of neat that the shrines, the name of the shrines are the same as the roots in the underground, but spelled forward to back. Like they're not I haven't encountered a shrine that was basically like a palindrome, right, where it's the same forward and back, but still, I mean, to to figure out or know or surmise like that kind of distinction, you know, is something that's kind of nice, but like once you figure it out, the mystery is just not there anymore. Like if you go to if you can't find a shrine on the surface, right? You basically just go into the underground depths and find the light route, right? And then you can find a close approximation to where the shrine may be. I mean, the shrine. I mean, oh, speaking of that, let's talk about the Purapad. Like, that was a whole nother thing that wasn't fully upgraded from the get go. And even then, I don't. I must have missed the part where Pura basically told me to talk to the guy waiting at the entrance to the underground shelter. Or maybe I was just too eager to, explore. But, like, I never thought that I would actually skip over the shelter until like a few episodes in, right? And I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, this is a huge oversight." I mean, I was basically just talking shit at that point, but I mean, on the other hand, I'm glad I found it. And then there's that, and then there was the chest, in the grate, beneath the ladder, and I'm like, I want that chest. So then I figured, okay, well, I'll help Jiren out and find the wall, and By the way, I'm glad that they actually pointed out the horned statue this time around, or made it easier to find, instead of somewhere off the beaten path, in Hateno Village. I mean, I think I've already said as much in my Breath of the Wild playthrough, or extreme playthrough, where I basically, on my main save, actually beat the entire game, completed all the shrines and never knew of the statue's existence, effectively maxing out all my stats without ever relying upon it. So, I mean, I was a little upset, but it was satisfying because that meant that I actually worked for the Master Sword. I didn't just complete X number of shrines and then just reallocated my stats. But yeah, I'm glad in Tears of the Kingdom they actually put the horned statue like right there, for you to just mess around with your stats at any point in time. So anyway, but that wasn't the main draw though. It was basically a whole cavern area. So while I'm sitting here I was just going through the depths, or not the depths, but the underground, just trying, basically it just became Minecraft at that point. And I was just, because, I had to see what was going on. And the only thing that kept me from not stopping or discontinuing was the fact that they gave me soldier gear, right? So, which made me keep going a little further and a little further. And then toward the end, you basically come to a structure within the castle, that a stone monument that basically says, "Oh, we build this castle to ensure that the seal on the Demon King remains for all time." Which, spoiler alert, it didn't remain, and it probably would not have remained otherwise. I mean, that's another thing. Like at no point, there's little if any mention of like the previous champions in the game, right? Like, okay, sure. Like in this picture here, you clearly see them wielding what was once a fabled weapon of, the champions. The great eagle bow owned by Rivali, the light scale trident once wielded by Mipha, a scimitar of the seven once wielded by Urbosa, which, by the way, I'm surprised Riju is a dual wielder. I mean, nothing wrong with that, but still, kind of makes me wish, I could dual wield, I mean, that'd be pretty sweet. And then, of course, there's the Boulder Breaker, once used by Daruk, I mean, in fact, I think the only mentions of the champion, of at least one of the champions to my recollection, was in the form of Lady Riju's diary, where she basically calls Urbosa by name. So I'm a little surprised that there's little mention of like the previous game. I mean, yes, there's a couple of mentions about the Calamity, but there was nothing that really tied the Calamity to Ganon the Demon King. There was no lore or backstory to suggest that Calamity Ganon was just an avatar created by the Demon King while he was still sealed in an effort to you know remove his seal. Like they never extrapolated on that. There's no connection. Not to mention the fact that, like, where did the Guardians go? Where did the Divine Beasts go? Or the Sheikah shrines? Where did all of those go? I mean, the towers, I assume, were just taken down and repurposed. I mean, if there was to be a DLC for this game, I would say that there would have to be, like, some tie-in, right? Because, see, this game, with all the main quests that you could do, like, the main quests are all tied or linked together, right? Like, take the Master Sword, for example. Let's say you never did the geoglyphs, right? Maybe you're a player who thought, huh, well, if the master, well, hey, maybe I can ask the Deku Tree in helping to find the master sword. So let's say you find your way into the forest and you save the Deku Tree, and the Deku Tree is like, and I think I've actually seen a video about it, and I guess the Deku Tree alludes to the idea, I'm sensing something about the sky. That's strange. As far as where to find the Master Sword, you know? Or maybe you didn't go to the Deku Tree and you didn't do the geoglyphs, Maybe you did what I did and it's like, oh, there's this mysterious thunder cloud, let's fly into it and try and, stumble around. I mean, and by stumble, like I said, I mean literally stumble. I visited it way too early. And, it was like the new Typhoon Ruins except with lightning. And when you free the Sage's spirit, the construct on the left, the construct there on the left, she basically spells it out for you that, oh, Zelda became the light dragon in an effort to repair your sword. If you're looking for the sword, you should probably find the light dragon. You know, I mean, she basically just straight up tells you, like, if you somehow found her first, if you somehow were brave enough, or foolish, I guess. I mean, if you're going for Minoru first before the other four, oh, you better have a few shrines under your belt, or more hearts, because lightning hurts a lot. you know, she basically just tells you straight up where to find the sword. If you were so inclined to do the spirit temple first. And even then, I actually found the exploring the depths. You can actually find or stumble across you know the resting place for the machine construct. You know, directly underneath the te- directly underneath the Spring of Courage, and a little further to the north or south of it, there's, well, actually, I think it's also near a bargainer statue. But oh, that was another thing. The bargainer statue, specifically the one like beneath the Great Plateau. I mean, I mean, if I throw the eyes into the chasm, right? If I throw each of the four eyes into the chasm and it tells me I did that, then if for whatever reason I walk away from the quest, the eyes need a place to spawn underground, right? Because I was sitting there searching for the last eye, wondering, where did it go? Where did I drop it? And it turns out that it just respawned, but on this back up on the surface. So I had to go back up, literally drop it back down the hole, and chase after it this time, and then finish that quest. I mean, that was pretty obnoxious, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, bottom line, if it says I dropped all four into the hole, then that's where they all need to spawn should I walk too far away from it, you know? Or at least suggest to search for it back up on the surface or something. I mean, I have to apologize to those of you who, watched that part of the series, I mean, I didn't mean to make you sit through all that. Um, Personally, I think the one heart container or stamina vessel that it gave me was a little underwhelming, but, it was necessary to actually use. It was actually necessary as it helps unlock some of the things with the bargainer statue. And that's another thing. I'm surprised the statue at Lookout Landing doesn't actually sell you the same equipment as the ones under the ground. I mean, you want the good stuff, you go underground. I mean, if you want just like muddle buds, bomb arrow or bombs and such, you just buy it from the surface, like you can in the underground. And even then, a lot of the resources you can just find. Speaking of which, arrows. I've never. I don't think there was ever a time I actually ran out of arrows in this playthrough. Like, at all. Even with the prospect of having to fuse different things to the arrows to make them different or better. You know? Especially the choo-choo jellies. I mean, I'm glad that they still had that mechanic where if you apply a bit of an elemental effect to the choo-choo jellies that, you can actually make them into other jellies, right? So, let's see. Is there anything else I could probably talk about here? Well, let's see. We got... Okay, there's the marbled Goma fight. Yeah, I mean, this fight here could have probably been a little bit more clear, in all honesty. I mean, like... Oh, yeah. The Gleeox. I mean, I never thought that the Gleeox would be so hard to take down. I mean, even wearing full, like, attack-up armor, I mean, it's like the damage is capped, I don't know if it's because I don't know if it's just the weapon I'm using, but even the Blade of Evil's Bane doesn't seem to cut it as well as you would think, King Gleeok. Oh, right. Let's talk about the battery. Let's talk about the battery life. No, not of the Switch, but, that you can max out on. I mean, don't get me wrong, full batteries are nice and all, but when you create a construct like a fan plane, for example, and the construct itself has a time limit, I mean, I get it. I get it. The developers didn't want you to break the game, but still, I mean, I don't know. It just kind of makes having 8 batteries kind of arbitrary if, I mean, at some point when you have more battery life, to a point where, the machine itself breaks down long before you run out of juice. I mean, it kind of makes me wonder if there's a way to extend the life of the machine itself, I mean, to be fair, I mean, like in this picture here, this isn't even full batteries. There's actually a whole nother 8 batteries I can still max out on, or possibly more. But I don't know if that'll extend the life of the mech itself. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I think the amount of batteries versus how long a machine lasts, might be a little bit on the ridiculous side, or perhaps maybe it's just the wing itself, right? Because even when I reconstruct it using Zonite, it's usually just the plane that fades out before, like, the fans or the control stick ever does, right? So the wing might be one of those things that has a unique, elasticity. Now, as far as the cooking pots go, I'm okay with one use out of them because, I mean, what else are you going to use them for, right? I mean, I think that was pretty much a lot. I can't tell you how many times using a cooking pot when having a portable cooking pot was a lifesaver. I mean, I appreciate that one. Oh, I just happened to... I was just goofing around, revisiting temples, searching for sages' wills, and yeah, you can actually stand on top of this cannon, and yeah, there's a solid platform there, even though it looks like I should be falling through it. So, I mean, some limitations, I guess. Uh, Here's me trying to figure out that quest that Riju gave me. I don't think this is the place. Oh, yeah. Here's a nice site. I was actually following the, I can't remember which dragon I was on or visiting, but I think I visited, like, the light dragon first, and we just happened to pass by Nidra, you know, the ice dragon. Which is fitting because, Zelda has been known to be the keeper of the Triforce of Wisdom, and, well, here we are, Literal double dragons here. I mean, not gonna lie, that was pretty memorable for me. Yep. Yep, there they are from above. Uh, yeah, like I said, I thought this quest, I thought solving Zora's domain quest was pretty neat. Seeing Sidon come into his own like this. Uh, as far as the other Zora armor pieces, I mean, they're not absolutely necessary. I mean, the main vest was all right. Still, I can't. Still, this is like one of those games, as I said before, where you can inadvertently already have what you need to complete a quest and just complete a quest. I mean, still, like, if I saved, like, the deck. But still, I mean, even. You'd think after I saved the Deku tree that maybe. And had the Master Sword that, maybe it could have been a place where I can, like, stop by and say, "Oh, you need to have the Master Sword charged up faster. All right, just put it in the pedestal and wait a couple minutes. Instead of waiting 10 minutes. That's another thing about the Master Sword. In this game, it doesn't have nearly as much durability as it does when like it does in Breath of the Wild's DLC. When you fully complete the Master Sword trial, you get a permanent 60 sword regardless of where you're at or who you're fighting, and it has a way higher durability in that game. I mean, I guess the developers didn't want you to create a super doomsday weapon out of your sword, right? That would just literally break the game in two. I guess that's why they kind of kept like some sense of durability to even the Master Sword in this game. Now, I don't know. Maybe DLC would fix that. I'm not certain. But, I mean, we'll see. Uh, okay, well, let's see. Okay, that's me hunting down the pieces of the dragons for the sake of maxing out the. Oh, then there's this shrine. I mean, this was a subversion of expectation as if there ever was one. I thought, see, when I visited the temple in the sky labyrinth, I thought maybe this was a way of the game telling me, no, you got to do it proper. We'll let you in, but, we'll kind of tease you here. No, actually, this was the puzzle. And there's Sage of Spirits, Flaxel. That's another thing I like about this game. They took the named NPCs, and gave them new roles. Just seeing it's kind of like when you see a familiar face, and you remember, and you think back to when you helped them in the first game. Like Flaxel was one of the oils that was at the Gerudo stable, right? I think she was one of the people that what was his name, Sesame, kind of abandoned. Well, Sesame abandoned his friends, right? He ran like a coward and didn't bother to try to save any of them, and he employed us to do it. So, yeah, I don't know where Sesame is, but I'm pretty sure whatever. I didn't find out whatever happened to Sesame, but I mean, I didn't 100% this game, obviously. I mean, can you imagine that this game would probably be like 200 parts or something? at that rate, but oh yeah. And then there's the Colosseum underneath the Overworld Colosseum with all those Lionels. I mean, don't get me wrong, Majora's Mask was a great reward for this. I'm a little upset, I guess, that you can basically just get, the armor pieces through Amiibo, or you can complete. I mean, you can just get the armor pieces via an Amiibo, instead of doing the quests, or you could do both, I guess. But, to know that there's an alternative to the Amiibos, I mean, I don't know if this was a decision in lieu of, like, knowing that, the Amiibos were, like, discontinued or not being manufactured anymore. I mean, here's the thing, like, if Nintendo wants to make Amiibos, and if they don't want to go... I mean, the figurines are special, right? I mean, I can see them, if they do reproductions of Amiibos, they could probably just resort to, printing out, like, NFC cards. Like they did with all the Animal Crossing villagers. I mean, I can see them doing something like that. I mean, it's like when you own a gold cartridge of the Legend of Zelda, NES Legend of Zelda, or a gray cart reproduction, right? I mean, it's the same game, it's just not as flashy on the outside, right? Amiibos could be the same way. First run of the Amiibos, it's a special figurine. Second run, third run, they're just NFC cards. They'll still function like the figurines, but I mean, Nintendo could just as easily do that. Speaking of Amiibos, still kind of waiting for the rest of the Smash Amiibos. I mean, I'm just gonna throw it out there that throw this out there. Nintendo, if you're listening, listen. I get that there's a lot of problems in the world right now, socio-economically and politically. I mean, personally, I think we could all probably just settle for having the rest on NFC cards. I mean, I think it would probably be in the best interest if you made them, because A, if you make it, we will know that we're buying a quality product, right? And B, I mean, a lot of people are already making, fake Ebos or fake Amiibos, There's already people out there who are effectively making NFCs that function just like that Amiibo would, I mean, if something's not available, someone somewhere out there is making something to subvert that, right? I'm just saying it'd probably be in your best interest to, make it yourself to curtail other people making it, And plus, if later down the road you want to actually make a figurine like you promised, you can still do that. If anything, people can buy like the NFC card from you first, use it. That way, when they buy the figurine, they don't have to take the figurine out of the box. It'll collect in value. I mean, it's a win-win for everybody at that rate, right? Anyway, I'm just throwing that idea out there, Oh, that's me just before opening the chest. Lionel parts. Lionels. There's Joshua. Okay, this was the last part of the Koga quest. Mines similar to this one can be found thriving under... Okay, well, that was probably something people could notice already. Oh, the way this ended in a comedic fashion like in the first one was pretty great. So did he? I'd have to go back to Rito Village, but you know, if he rocketed up high, there should be a hole above the surface now, right? Instead of just on the side of the cliff face. Still, I mean this. Still, I mean this was. He didn't really tell us anything new. I mean, like we could already figure out that Ganon's at Hyrule Castle, just like in the first game, you know. Speaking of which, there's people already. People have already beaten this game. Like literally, as soon as they get the paraglider, they just literally beamlined for the chasm, right under the castle, and just did it right. And watching someone else do it, I'm like, wow, I don't think I could do that. I mean, yeah, you want to beat the game lickety split, you know, be prepared to lose a few times, Still, it's kind of surprising that there was a mech here, that they unearthed a mech. I wonder if what would have happened if I came here with Minoru. I mean, if she would have said something, or if something special would have happened. I don't know. The crazy part is that in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, Master Koga was in that game too, but is that Koga related to this one, or is this Koga 100 years old? I mean, that's my question. I wouldn't think this Koga would be 100 years old. I mean, otherwise we'd be fighting an old man, and, Impa got real small, right? I gotta say, the Silver Lizalfos blade, making it look like a Reaper scythe, nice touch, I gotta say. Yeah, see, there's that Ponic, that's his name. See, no one would ever have known this. I mean, I've seen, since beating the game, and I've watched, like, Space Hamster, an older YouTuber. No, I mean, like, older in his career, not physically, but, like, he does streams and video games under the YouTube channel Hammy now, Hammmy. You might want to watch his playthrough if you're not interested in mine. I mean, I don't talk very often. Plus, I don't stream. I don't have the knowledge or desire to learn that as of yet. I want to build up an audience first, before I experiment with other things. But yeah, he found this legitimately. He didn't. I don't think he resorted to chat or anything, but yeah, even looking at a map, you wouldn't be able to find this. You just have to. You just have to let your curiosity just take you here. Trousers of the hero. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is me discovering the construct battle mech before the Sage of Spirit. Underneath. I thought this was going to be important, so I took a photo of it. I wonder if I could have visited the other parts of this temple. Like, I didn't know how expansive this place was when I first came here, before finding the head part of the construct. Oh, and then there's ancient blades. Like, I got the first ancient blade I ever had, was actually at Warsaw's Bluff, in the same place where in Breath of the Wild you're supposed to literally stand there on a pedestal during a blood moon with in your shorts. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty scary, I guess. But yeah, I didn't think this ancient blade was going to. Well, it even says right here, use as an arrowhead. But I figured What if I affix it to my weapon, my main sword weapon? So, I'm sitting there fighting, my very first Lionel, which was a blue Lionel, you know, after the Lionel was already weakened, I'm like, well, time to break out. Well, I'm not losing this fight. Better take out the ancient blade and just affix it to my sword. So I slash it, and it died just like if I'd shot it with an ancient arrow. Spoiler alert, you can actually buy ancient blades at the Spirit Temple. Yeah, I don't know if it's a thing that becomes available like sometime, like if you visit the temple afterwards, or if it was ready from the get go. I didn't notice, but yeah, you can just buy ancient blades. I mean, you have to trade 50 Zonite, but still. Let's see. That's Oh yeah, this was during the stream where, well, not the stream. This was during my off screening when I purposefully skipped over several shrines for the sake of a playthrough, right? Because, otherwise, like I said, the series would have been much longer than it is now, and I think 50 episodes is more than enough, personally. I mean, this is literally one of those games that are designed to be played for hours. I just figured I'd take a picture of this. It was a nice sunrise or sunset. No, it's a sunrise. 3:20 a.m. It was a nice sunrise, so I took a picture of it. Um, let's see. I think this was in the Akala region. Zonite shin guards, blessing. Oh yeah. Um, upon trying to figure out one of the puzzles, I came across this curious thing that looked like a companion cube. Yeah, I can't help but feel that this game kind of draws inspiration from other things. Not least of which the fact that, well, Link only has one arm and has an artificial arm, and well, Minoru's like all mech now. So I guess there's definitely a bit of Full Metal Alchemist going on here, but like as I had probably said before, I think there's enough differences here that while there are similarities, I think it's just different enough that I don't think Toei would sue Nintendo necessarily. I mean, not especially since, I mean, I thought they were kind of buds, to be honest. You know, hmm. Oh, yeah. This is a hilarious moment from one of my shrine adventures. I clearly underestimated the buoyancy of yeah, I'm glad I wasn't standing on that. And then there's that Jenga puzzle. Me taking down a Gleeok for the... I think this was the first Gleeok I took down. Yeah. I was actually... Even with the lightning helmet, it still makes me drop my stuff. So, I mean, I was protected from most of the damage, but not enough. Oh, then there's this shrine where it basically teaches you, like, the ins and outs of some of the Zonai parts. Like, I didn't really fully grasp this one. I mean, there was... I mean, sometimes you don't have time to explore because there's so many enemies in a room, right? But, I'm glad I figured this one out. And then there's this puzzle here. This puzzle actually helped me get through the Dragon Head Islands. Just the concept of basically creating something basic to fit between the rails and traverse the rails really came in clutch on the Dragon Head Islands. There's this one. I figured that quest out finally after I already beat the game, but still. Um, that's another thing. Can we just talk about Melania the Horse God here? Honestly, I didn't really buff any of my horse's stats. In fact, I don't really think I've used my horse very much at all, you know. Just like in Breath of the Wild, I mean, I don't know, maybe the idea of using a vehicle is just more appealing than a horse or such. I mean, there's still the side quests that I have to do about using a horse and draw and, you know, to help this other NPC out, but still. I never bothered to buff stats, and you know, in order to buff stats of horses in this game, you have to literally go out of your way to cook meals for this guy, you know. Whereas previously it was just like the one Endura carrot, right? Kind of like what they did with the Great Fairies. Honestly, you know, not having to pay 10,000 rupees or not having to pay an X amount of rupees in increasing increments all the way to 10,000. You know, in this game was great, but at the same time, you still have to pay a lot of rupees just to max out your armor too, in addition to having the parts for it. So I don't know, kind of a trade-off, I guess. Here's me discovering a tunic of time, legit. Here's Oh yeah, they brought this guy back. He honestly you could play the entire game and you know not even see this guy. To be honest, you know, come to think of it, they say this in the first game they said this guy was an outsider, but he's wearing the same clothes, which now upon further inspection is Sheikah gear, right? So if he was wearing this then why did they regard him as an outsider? Or maybe they shunned him? I don't know. Just a theory. Oh yeah, here's me actually making it to the water temple way before I was actually supposed to be here. I mean, in my defense, you know, I thought it was just like another island structure to explore. And, you know, it is, but still, I wondered if I had played through this like legit, you know. I mean, if I can get here without the Zora armor, then you know, a lot of other things are just kind of, you know, just secondary, I guess. Uh, the first time I discovered a hover stone. Oh yeah. Um, this game has like three islands that are all skydiving events. Um, I actually came across one, and you know, I kind of wanted to explore this particular one, and I didn't realize you could just activate the dragon ring and just come up here. Yeah. So there's a Korok up all the way up here. Um, I'm surprised these quests. I'm surprised these clothing quests here don't get added to your map. I mean, they put X's on your map, but well, the first NPC I came across put X's on my map. These guys, no, they don't. I guess they just expect everyone else. I guess they just expected me to remember. Uh, there's that. Soldier construct horn. There's Pura. Oh, Bol- here's the Bolson construction dance.
Mm-hmm. Da 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 da. Shucky.
That was fun. Still, I thought this quest was kind of the part of getting like 15 bundles of wood, or not bundles, but 15 logs of non palm tree wood was pretty difficult. So yeah, I visited the Lover's Pond as depicted in this picture, but the fairies aren't there anymore. So I'll have to figure out what that's all about. Yep, here's me taking those logs by hand. I mean, I tried. To be fair, I mean, I did try to build a horse-drawn carriage out of raw materials, but yeah, I don't think the horse could have taken the weight. And I have a sneaking suspicion, even if I did max out the horse's stats, or if it had max stats, wouldn't have been able to do it. Here's another ancient blade I legitimately found. The wells. You know, I spent a few parts trying to find fireflies, only to discover that Beetle at this stable actually sells them. Um. Oh right, This is another quest. Keep the detail. I'll keep the details hidden on that one. Uh.
Link, give me your hand. I read. Don't.
Yeah, so there's these two guys who, I'm glad some of the NPCs got a glow up, from the first game. I mean, these guys were just an afterthought after the first one, in the Dueling Peaks stable. And even then, the fact that and again, the fact that you can basically inadvertently complete a quest without actually realizing it, come across the one NPC's like, hey, can you find this for me? Oh, you already found it. Wow. You know, kind of underwhelming on one hand, but satisfying on the other. I don't know. Not to mention the fact that, okay. Ember trousers. Alright. Yeah, so this is part of one of the cutscenes. I thought this was pretty good, so I took a photo of it. Just the picture of the Lionels. Some of the pen quests. I mean, I know the geoglyphs are pretty large and hard to miss on the overworld map, so I guess having having a means of actually. Let's see. Oh yeah. I really do kind of like how some of the weapons look after you fuse certain materials to it. But the thing is that I don't think it. I think you have to really know when it comes to fusing weapons in this game that you have to know enough that when you fuse a weapon, you can also inadvertently change its property. Like for example, if you add something that looks like a hammer to what is supposed to be a cutting weapon, like a sword, you effectively turn it into a blunt weapon instead, right? So if you're trying to if you're trying to hack and slash something, that doesn't if you're trying to hack and slash at something, you're not going to be able to hack or slash. Like for example, if you're trying to cut a tree or mine zonite, if you take if you put a blade on top of what's supposed to normally be a club, you're going to turn that into like a fancy blade, I guess, and vice versa. So, just some. Oh, yeah, this is me discovering that ancient blade I told you about. One of the cutscenes. Cap of the Sky. I don't know. I kind of thought this side quest of finding all the sky monoliths was a little underwhelming. I got. The research team glider fabric was nice, but I don't know. I just thought this quest was particularly, you know, underwhelming for what it is. I will say that I think it would have probably been nice if the in-game map reflected that this particular landmark is now on the surface instead of in the sky, or to visually look like it's on the surface instead, because you didn't. That's something you have to come to realization, right? If you're wondering where the hell is this monolith in the sky that's above the lookout landing, only to realize, oh, it fell to the ground. I guess one of your clues to that fact is, like, if you're visiting one of the other ones, spoiler alert, if you set foot on some of them, they will break away and fall to the ground. Oh, then there's this then there was this mayoral election. I'm kind of glad this is also kind of just there in the open, instead of having to when you completed Terrytown in Breath of the Wild, in order to have Grante sell you, the armors that you may have already sold once before or found. I still would have liked like a callback shirt, they could have added like a Switch OLED shirt to this game or something to allude to the idea that, oh, you're probably playing this on an OLED or something now, kind of a joke or a dig at Nintendo, but a dig at themselves, but I get it. I get it. To be fair, you don't want to, if you're doing something epic, you don't want to wear something that's somewhat embarrassing. I thought the school scene was nice. I like the pictures. I wonder if actual kids drew these and they just used these in the game or whatever, but this was nice. I thought it was a nice touch. Also, the fact that Zelda's house, or my house, I guess, was kind of taken over, and very little, if anything, of mine was left. I don't know. I guess they had to come up with a story, because not everybody did the Hylian homeowner quest in Breath of the Wild. But I don't know. The fact that I had the Champions Ballad DLC for that game and completed it, if you do that, then you're going to see that picture in that house. So there will be so at least that picture will still be there. But I've seen playthroughs of this game where that photo is not there. So yeah, that's at least another thing that carries over between the games. Yeah, I thought the Mother Goddess statue quest was a little underwhelming for the prize. They gave me another Sword of the Sky, which I already had via an amiibo. Again, if you have the amiibo and you get the reward, and then you complete a long, arduous quest and just get the reward again, I don't know. I would have probably liked something else in exchange. You know, I mean, like, I don't know, cash or something. I don't know. again, it's one of those things where you can inadvertently complete complete a task, you know, and not realize it. But destination or journey rather than destination, I guess. Let's see. Okay, the Dragon Tears. Okay, this was probably towards the start of the game, right? Yeah. Um. Hmm. Yeah. See, I mean, secret room to the house. That's another thing. I mean, I've seen people struggle to find the auto build function. I mean, I went to the Great Plateau, the game at the beginning of Breath of the Wild, to see what was all changed, and came across a machine that said, "Oh, you don't know anything about schema stones. Visit this place in the depths," and I inadvertently found this place, which is actually next to the Great Plateau. So visited the depths and got auto build, which I mean, Joshua kind of hints at it, but they don't really. But they leave much to the mystery. And this is where you learn that there is an earthquake technique. And then, of course, I came across. Then, of course, I had the forethought of taking a picture of, this hand drawn map that they did. And I'm like, oh, wait, I recognize these places. Okay, so I'm guessing there's one at the Akala Tech Lab, or here's one. That's the one at the plateau. That's probably their main branch headquarters. Of course, the one that stumped me the most was like the one next to the forest, because there's actually two forests, but there's only one forest drawn here. So, yep. Please visit the mine. I never actually did collect all those armor pieces, even after I beat the game already. Should probably go back and do those. I think this was a nice touch where they they basically hide the spoiler for the game. Well, that's another thing. Let's talk about the Dragon Tears. You can inadvertently do the Dragon Tears out of order, and I've already pieced together that, oh, Zelda became the dragon. Just by watching the scenes out of order inadvertently. I mean, it would have been nice if, like, well, I don't know. I mean, that might have, like, you can inadvertently do things out of order. I mean, I think it would have benefited me. I think if I did the scene, even if I did the scenes out of order, to purposely skip the cutscene of the memory playing, because I can just rewatch it from the menu. Purposefully just collect the memories, and then watch the memories from start to finish, all of them, in the intended order, and then I would have been like, oh, so that's what happened, you know. I mean, even this right here, like, I came back here after I beat the game, or, well, not. While I was beating the game, you do come across this room again, and by then you have a way to break the wall. And the murals here, even, the last two murals even dictate that she becomes the light dragon, you know? Something with which you already learn at this point. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of a nice way of trying to keep the secret from Zelda. So kind of begs the question though. So the light dragon was actually in Breath of the Wild then, but like hidden. I don't know. I mean, in Breath of the Wild, like, you couldn't even ride the dragons, right? You couldn't even touch them without, like, hilariously, like, comedically keep rolling off the back of the dragon. But yeah, you can actually ride the dragons in this one. You'll probably have to, except for the light dragon, you'll have to wear appropriate attire, but to withstand the corresponding element. Also, I think Link gets more hearts overall than this by the end, because I don't know. I mean, these reflect the old stats, but like even in this game, I hear that you can't max out on hearts still, so that's a little disappointing. And that's the end of the slideshow there. Um, so yeah. Um, now, now, I think the last thing I want to touch base on is, will there be DLC? I mean, there's a lot of people who seem to think that, because the Switch is old, that there's a lot of people that say that they probably won't see a DLC for this game on the grounds that it's on a system that's now like 7 years old. But I think to an extent, I mean, we kind of reached somewhat of a zenith. I mean, conceptually, I mean, it's kind of hard to beat the Switch, right? I mean, the only way you can make the Switch better at this point, I think, would be to somehow make it so that it can fold up and put into your pocket as well as do all the things it can still do. I mean, I mean, if they somehow add a way to, like, add a lid, at least to protect the screen, kind of like how the 3DS was. So, I mean, that's one thing. I think the real issue here is that, like, I mean, the Switch OLED was supposed to be the Switch that we all thought was going to be coming, right? But again, due to socio-economic and global catastrophes and such, and now political tensions, I mean, I don't think we'll probably get that upgraded Switch that we all clamor for. I mean, I got the but see, even if we did get an upgraded Switch, I don't think conceptually it's going to be any different than the Switch we already got, you know? It's like, well, it's like when you upgraded from like the 3DS XL to a new Nintendo 3DS XL. Yes, the new Nintendo 3DS had, but had better buttons, another stick, but, the in-game interface and everything else was all pretty much the same. And maybe graphically it was a little better. And plus, apart from Xenoblade Chronicles, I mean, the first one, apart from that game, does anybody know of any game that was made explicitly for a new Nintendo 3DS XL? I mean, without looking it up, I don't remember there being very many games made explicitly for the system. I mean, maybe there were some things that were only accessible or purchasable for it. Not least of which I think there was a Metroid title as well. But yeah, I mean, conceptually, if we did get a Switch 2, I don't think it would be too vastly different from a Switch, to be honest. We might even just have the same interfaces and such. I mean, hell, even the Switch we do have, I mean, you still only have the basic, white or black. You still have the basic light or dark theme, like you get with, some apps. So I think it would probably benefit Nintendo to just try to keep the Switch going a little bit longer and actually add DLC. But one of the main sticking points I think we can all agree on is if they just improve the online, I mean, look, just improve the online experience, Like, we don't have to have voice chat, I mean, if Nintendo is worried about people playing games where everyone's talking like sailors, if that's what Nintendo's most worried about, I mean, yeah, they can make that component more difficult like they are already doing now, you know? Like to chat online in an online game, you know, you basically have to use an alternative way, you know? Whether you use Skype or talk on the phone, you know? You got to have like a third party involved because I guess Nintendo just doesn't have the budget or the time or patience to deal with a whole myriad of Keiths or Karens, who, you know, who say they're concerned about it, but you know, in their youth, they're probably the same generation that see the Keiths and Karens today are the same people are our generation, the same people who grew up playing Mortal Kombat and all that other stuff, kind of to see a lot of people pull a 180 and try to, be better or say that they've changed, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we all want new generations to be better than the previous, but still, besides, apart from, omitting voice chat and such, I think it's kind of a crying shame that, the only online titles that work online well enough are Mario Kart or Mario Kart 8 and Splatoon 2, or I guess now Splatoon 3 as well. That's pretty sad. We still have Smash Brothers that could have been greatly improved. We still got Mario Maker or Super Mario Maker 2 that could have been improved, without all the lag. It's unrealistic, I think, for Nintendo to say, oh, well, maybe if you get a LAN adapter. No. Just no. Wireless is supposed to be the direction we're all supposed to be heading towards, there are people who have wired connections who still think the internet is bad because the servers aren't that great, I'm just saying, look, I'm not saying that, users aren't also to blame to an extent, but it's unrealistic to expect the user to, buy all the peripherals just to make something work when more work can be done on your end. Now, I know it would probably drive the price of online even higher, but, I don't know. It's kind of a catch-22, right? If Nintendo did improve their Wi-Fi or their internet, then it would probably drive the cost up, I'm just saying. And, not a lot of people can really afford. Well, I mean, PlayStation and Xbox, I think they charge like, what, $30-$50 a month, for their online. I'm just saying, it's just a catch-22, I think Nintendo would be able to extend the life of a lot of different things if they can just improve the online. They don't have to have voice chat in their games. Like I said, if they're worried about people talking like sailors, cursing and such, online, then yeah, by all means, make it more difficult to chat online or omit it altogether, But, I don't know. But on the other hand, Nintendo now has a theme park, and and a lot of people, a lot of different kinds of people will go to these theme parks for different reasons, and I don't know. I don't know. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. All right, well, I think I've said all I needed to about this game. So, again, if you're watching this series, great, thank you. If you've came back to this retrospective episode after watching it, thank you for watching all the episodes. I don't expect you to watch all of the episodes start to finish. You can fall asleep to them if you'd like. Any as long as the views go up, I don't care one way or the other if you actually watch it. Lots of people don't remember everything that happens, but still, would be nice. or even if you just wanted to watch this in lieu of the series, that's cool too. So, um, I'm not sure what the next. I'm not sure what the next Extreme LP or LP is going to be, but I'll keep you posted. In the meantime, you can expect some one-offs or smaller series, I guess, to boot. So, anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next series.